Here at the Cope, it is our goal to be a positive force in our community. If you like what you hear, please like, share, and comment on our page. Hey, this is your boy Will here, and I'm sitting here with a gentleman who has done quite well for himself. A gentleman that we all grew up together in the little town of Albion. Now he resides in the city of Las Vegas, and he is a dentist at 32 years old. I'm just glad to have this gentleman here with me today. What's up, Terrell?
What's going on? What's going on? How y'all doing?
Man, it's just great to have you here with us, man. We've just been, seeing some of your success, man. And, just thought it was definitely important to bring you on and just pick your brain, chop it up with you a little bit, just see what's been going on.
For sure. Appreciate it. Appreciate you having me over.
And I know I said that you were actually living in the city of Las Vegas, but I know right now you're in a transition. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, man. So I just active duty Air Force for people who don't know. I was out in Vegas, stationed there for about 5 years. Just wrapped things up there. Got accepted to a 2-year residency program. So I'm headed down to Biloxi, Mississippi, to Keesler Air Force Base. That'll be my station for the next 2 years while I'm in the comprehensive dentistry residency program down there. So just moved out last week actually to Biloxi, getting things situated there, getting ready to start residency on Monday actually. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Now, when you're a kid, matter of fact, most kids, some of the most common things you hear people say is you hear them say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, or I want to be a dentist. As time goes and life comes in, you see that those careers, those dreams kind of start to fade. Mm-hmm. I just want to ask you, what age did you start to feel like you wanted to be a dentist?
Man, so I was in high school, about 16 years old, so that would put it, I think it was like sophomore year, man. And I had several things that pushed me in that direction at the time, man. So I was, as far as high school or as far as schooling, I was really interested in sciences. So, biology, chemistry, things like that interested me most, So that kind of played a major factor in it. I had a group of friends, just like you said, you grow up with people and they want to be doctors, they want to be dentists, things like that. So I actually had a group of about 3 or 4 friends. We all wanted to be dentists, in high school. So that group was one of the things that pushed me in that direction as well. And then I actually had someone in this community, Dr. Lane Stumpos, really reach out to me and help me with my dream, So I went to his office as a 16-year-old, first time I ever been to the dentist actually to be treated. And he knew of me and he knew of my interest in sciences. And he was one of the first people to say, why not? Why can't you do it? Why can't you be a dentist? So somebody that really took me under their wing early age when I was in high school. And those are the motivating factors and things that began to push me in that direction, So,
man, I didn't know that, and that's good to know. One of the things I always say is that, I think that mentorship is so important.
Definitely.
So you feel like him mentoring you was really detrimental to you being a successful dentist right now?
Yeah, man. So I had a lot of motivation, self-motivation, but I can't say that I would be here without him reaching out, you know what I mean? Yeah. So at that time, I'll just go ahead and go into the story a little bit further. Had a friend that passed. Her name was Jessie Longhurst. I know a lot of people will be familiar with her, but she was one of those friends that wanted to be a dentist too, right? So during the time we were in high school, she was actually doing like some dental assisting at Dr. Starkey's office or whatever, trying to get, up to speed, understand what it was about and everything. And we're sitting down in class one day and we're having that discussion. And I'm like, man, I want to get in on that. I want to do a little bit of that too. And this is post me having the conversation with Dr. Stumpos. So I reached out to him and asked him, can I do that at your office or whatever?
Yeah.
You're a dentist. It's a business. It's about making money. So He couldn't get me up to speed that quick on doing something like that. But what he did say is, hey man, anytime you have an opportunity, you come on down here, you sit with me, you know, we'll talk. When I'm working with patients, you can step in and you can watch procedures. So having that from the age of 16 going forward gave me a great advantage, man. So having that type of mentorship and somebody that not only did that for me, but believed in me early on and said, you know, you can do this. It was crucial, man. Yeah.
Man, that is awesome. You know, one of my mentors, he always tell me, you know, he got this little thing that says it's okay to be a copycat as long as you copy the right cat, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
And I mean, a big part of that is really mentorship. And I mean, you know, we're all following and we're all leading someone. And not saying that you're following him, but just to following anybody's, you know, footsteps that may have something that you may want. And I think that that's probably one of the first clues that we have here in this video for those who are watching, you know, how important it is to get yourself a mentor, get around people who's already done it, you know, get the same for your children. You know, that is so important because it just cuts so much time off of making mistakes and errors and everything. When you find somebody who has already been through what it is that you want, and just start modeling after them. You know, so I appreciate you saying that. I know I didn't even know that about you, and so I learned something today. My next thing is, you know, we're a few years apart. You know, me being 36, you being 32. So we didn't have a lot of time, you know, when we were younger, you know, to hang out or kick it.
Yeah.
I know you were real close with my cousin Donovan.
Yeah.
I was more towards your brother age, you know, your brother Lavelle. I believe I graduated a year after him. But one thing that I saw with him is that I felt like, you know, he lived basketball, you know, so much so that when we were at Caldwell School, you know, none of us could ever play because his little squad always occupied the court every single day. Yeah. You know what I mean? It ain't even no way if we would have tried to play because they were so good at seeing that young age. But as I seen him grow up, you know, as we grew up, I seen him be very disciplined, more than a lot of the other players. You know, we had a lot of good players, you know, that didn't go as far as he is. You know, now him being the head coach over there, but I just saw the discipline there, and I'm wondering, you know, do you have that same kind of discipline? Did you have that same kind of discipline growing up? And if so, like, where did it come from?
Man, so a lot of that comes from our family and kind of who those people are and what they set us out to be. A lot of that comes from me and Val and our connection. So as far as my family, I have an amazing father, amazing grandparents when it comes to the sports side of things. My mother is more on the education side, but when it came to playing sports, my father and grandfather, grandmother were so involved in the sports side of things, you know what I mean? So that's one of the places that the discipline comes from. And then one of the things, I've mentioned this like on Facebook and other outlets to people as well. One of the things I think that separates me and Val from everybody else is, man, it's okay to dream up whatever you want to be, right? But at some point you have to develop
the action plan.
Yes, an action plan, and you got to stick with it, and you got to make sure that every day you're doing things that are going to make you better. And a lot of the conversations that me and Val had growing up weren't about what we wanted to be, because we knew where we wanted to go. It's how you get there, man. And it was conversations 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. We're staying up, you know, watching video on hoops, and oh, this is what we're going to practice tomorrow. And then at 6 a.m. we're up and we're doing that. You know what I mean? So it's about having a plan in addition to having a dream, and it's about putting that into action daily. You know what I mean? Daily.
Absolutely.
So that's something that we started young, something that we still do. I'll tell you, man, it's so crazy. I'm not sure if he still does it. I'm pretty sure he does, but I get up every morning, man, and go for a run around 6 a.m. Okay. So that's something that started with me and Val when we were young, when I was in junior high, him in high school. So
Now you left off saying that you and him would run every morning. Can you finish off with
yeah. So I'll get at that. Like I said, so every morning, pretty much now, man, I wake up and I get some miles in. But that's something that started back when me and Val were me in junior high school and him in high school. A part of our action plan as far as what we wanted to be. My brother, if people don't know, he didn't live with us when we were growing up. So he lived with my grandmother. So they were living on Broadwell Street right by Chemical Bank. And then we lived on Eaton Street. So every morning, about 5:45, Val would come, knock on the door, and that meant, hey, get up. It's time to go right now. With no waiting. He would take off and leave me if I didn't walk out the door. So we got up and we did that every morning, man. We run all the way to Victory Park, run the hill a few times, and then we walk back and we just talk, man. So that became a ritual, and that's something I keep with me and I continue today, so.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to bring that up because last time you were here, I saw you out running. And I said, man, still disciplined, still doing that running. And I mean, so those things were instilled in you. And one of the questions I had was, what were the conversations that was like in your household? And I understand that you said that you and Val had the conversations, but what were the conversations like with your parents?
Man, that's a good question. So the conversations were everywhere. That's what I love about my parents, man. There was nothing that was off limits and nothing that you couldn't discuss in my household, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's key growing up as a kid and being curious about the world around you, to be able to sit down with your family and just talk about anything, right?
Right.
And a lot of positivity in the discussions as well, too. I grew up, pretty naive, I feel like now, and I didn't realize that until I was, college age, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because never did my parents, about anything that I asked or, aspired to do or be, never once did I get a negative response or, you can't do that. It was always find a way. You know what I mean? Like, how can you do that?
Right.
And conversations about things that maybe they didn't know about, we would find out about. You know what I mean? So I love that about my parents, that they were open and they allowed us to bring anything to the table and discuss anything. Another key point that I want to hit on, and something people, I think they realize it to a certain degree, but not to the full extent, man, is one of the key things that my family did in conjunction with a lot of other families in Albion was establish like authentic, real relationships with people in the community, with people who I consider who are my friends, that I grew up with in their families, right?
Right.
And I'm not talking about, because I think we've got to the point in Albion right now where we're a little bit segregated as like races,
Yeah.
As African Americans, we stay to ourselves, Mexicans stay to themselves, the whites stay to themselves.
Right.
But when we were growing up, it was Albion High School was a little bit more diverse, for sure.
Yeah.
But when I say a friend, I'm not saying somebody that you go sit at the bar and have a drink with. I'm saying somebody that can come to your dinner table, you sit down, and have a discussion, right?
Yeah.
So I had people in my life outside of my family, and that takes your parents allowing you and trusting that, these people aren't going to harm you, right? To get out and go have conversations and sit at the dinner table with people like the Longhursts in this community, the Lees, the Malloys, Scholes, Millers, So these are people that are almost, some of those families like my extended family, man, you know what I mean?
Right.
And in the same regard, to allow those kids, to allow Jesse, to allow Nick Miller, Cecilia Bomarito, Michael Slaughter, all these people into my home,
right.
To sit down and have dinner with us, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because at that point you start to learn about the world around you, really you do, man.
Right.
When you bring people from different backgrounds, different experiences into your home, you get to know what they're about, you know what I mean? It teaches you a lot about the world around you, and I think that's key, man. So, and I'm sure I missed some of the families too, but that was awesome, man. I think that's great, and I think that that's something that we needed to start to do again in our community is, hey, I mean, open your door to people. Every white person that you run into is not against you. You know what I mean? Some of these people honestly want to help you. And I think we all need to learn a little bit more about each other and develop some authentic relationships, man, with each other.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up, you know, because Albion, you know, it was like my boy Marty says, you know, we're a melting pot. You know, we got some of everybody in this little bitty small town.
For sure.
And I mean, some of my best friends growing up were white, you know. And I understand the tension that we have in the climate, you know, of racism that we have right now going on. And I was going to wait to actually ask this question, or not this really to talk about this.
Yeah.
One thing that I always, you know, I say I am me personally, I'm pro-black. That simply means that, you know, if I can support my black people, that's who I want to support, you know. But that doesn't mean I'm anti-white, you know. And a lot of times, anytime you bring up, you know, things like Black history or anything of that nature, is kind of looked at as like, you know, you playing the race card, or you get it, you like you're going too far.
I know what you mean.
And so I think a big part of this climate is that. But also, I think that some black people have taken it too far, and some white people have taken it too far. And this classing everybody of one race together. You know, I think that that's absolutely wrong. And I mean, like you said, when we were younger, I mean, we were all over the place. Everybody, you know, we all went to the same school. So, but I want actually why I put this this channel together is actually to help, you know, pull our black people up. You know, I see that we're behind on everything. You know, we got a 70% single parent rate. You know, I mean, 1 out of 3 black people, black men are going to jail. You know, prisoner pipeline. You know, and so I wanted to showcase, you know, people who are having success, you know what I mean? Definitely. Not necessarily from a rap standpoint or have to be an athlete, you know what I mean? But everyday success, because it's a lot of stories out here. It's a lot of just like yourself, you know what I mean? People that's doing something. And oftentimes the media and everyone else don't really showcase that, you know, so as far as the climate of racism, I agree with you, you know, on a lot of those points, man. And I feel like it's not. I believe that, you know, that kind of culture. If you can have that kind of culture, I think you definitely should.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why, man. And this is something that I believe in my heart. When you start to establish those types of relationships, those are people that you begin to care about, right?
Right.
And it establishes empathy, and it establishes an ally, an advocate, right? Because it's hard for your friend to sit down and watch you going through an experience to understand it better, because you probably explained it to them, you know, at this point, and to not empathize with you and to not want to do something and not want to change that at that point. So that's why those relationships are key in one aspect. And the other part is just understanding each other, man. Yeah. You know what I mean?
As human beings.
Yeah. We are different in so many ways, but we're alike in so many ways too, right? And it takes not being scared of each other and starting to develop those relationships again, man. I say this a lot, like, we got to stop being so politically correct as people, right? And not wanting to offend people or hurt people's feelings and start being real people, right? So that's what I think about that, man, for sure.
I mean, I think you said it, you know, as far as coming together, and I know we're going to go for another take, but the whole thing with Martin Luther King, you know, if you seen when it became televised, when all of those white people came from all of them different places to come together, and they actually stood together, and it was televised, you know, that's when real change started to take place. And I always say, you know, to my white friends, you know, I mean, you know, white privilege, I believe, is real. And they say,
Mm-hmm.
so what do you want me to not have my white privilege? No. I mean, this, I just want you to be aware that it's real. And if you have an opportunity to use it for the betterment, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So, as you were saying, yeah, it definitely, those things exist. Racism exists. Definitely white people have a lot of things that we don't to start. We're starting in different socioeconomic classes for sure. In many situations, we are viewed with prejudices far more than white people are. So I think it's important, like I said, that we be real people. And I think we started out with this wrong, man. When we started to have discussions about race, they weren't really discussions. It was more so, let's not talk about it. You know what I mean? Right. Everybody's going to be equal is what it was. Like, right. We'll consider blacks equal to whites or whatever. And that's not the case. You know what I mean? Like, we're not equal. The discussion should have been, don't treat me any different because we're different, you know what I mean? But try to engage with me and learn about my differences, because that's where we start to get somewhere, right? And I think I talked a bit about, inviting people into your home and having conversations and establishing authentic relationships. I think when we get into our segregated mindsets, or sitting down with an all-white family or all-black family, we kind of get into situations where we perpetuate what's going on, man, and give you an example of what I'm talking about. And I know it happens, man. So us as blacks, we sit down, to the dinner table with Thanksgiving, right? And it's funny to us, but it has to stop being funny, man. And we talk about, how every white person is out to get us or whatever, or this or that about white people, right? And nobody stops to think that their kids sitting around the dinner table too, though.
Yeah.
Right. So that's already established in their minds at that point that, this person has something against me, right? So they're walking out fearing those people already, unable to establish an authentic relationship with people like that, man. And the same thing happens in the reverse, though. Let's not act like it doesn't happen when white people are sitting down at the Thanksgiving table. Uncle Jerry's probably saying something like, I don't like black people, or all black people are lazy. And there's a kid at that table with them, man. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And 9 out of 10 of those people aren't racist at all.
Right, yeah.
And he may not even be.
Yeah.
But it perpetuates it. And people have to start saying something at that point. It's not funny. You know what I mean? We look at it as funny, or we try to ignore it. At that point is when you step in and you got to start correcting it, though, because that's how we start correcting these problems. I feel like it's starting there. You know what I mean?
But do you think, like, from a black side, people have those kind of discussions, trying, with an effort to try to prepare their kids for what they're going to face?
True. I would say, especially young black males, it's important to have the discussion and have them understand that racism does exist, right? Like, and there's no way around it. We live in a awesome country, man. Even we live in an awesome city in Albion, but racism is still out there, and that still exists. You're gonna run into those situations, but don't disregard every person. You know what I mean?
Right,
and I think it's getting to the point where it's getting scary, because we're starting to say all. You know what I mean? So, and that's stereotype, and that's bias, and that's where the prejudices come in, right? You can't say all about anything in life, really, right?
And I agree with that.
So I would say definitely allow them to know that racism exists. It's going to be a part of your life. It's not going away anytime soon, man. But at the same time, don't disregard every person, deal with those situations as they come, right? And don't let those situations, I've been through them, I know you have too, an important thing to do is not let those situations get you down when they do happen, man. So,
and really don't buy into it. Like you said, I mean, you know, one of the reasons, one of the things along with mentorship is that, you know, that you spoke on earlier is this, the positive reinforcements, you know what I mean? And one, right now at the school right now, some of the kids have been experiencing, you know, with the whole annexation and the switch, you know, been experiencing kids calling them the N-word, you know. And it's like such a thin climate, even when it comes to, you know, a black person saying, a white girl. I said, I asked, what's the white kid name? And they said, oh, that's racist. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, when did calling someone white become racist? You know, when did calling someone black? So I try to explain to them. But it's just a very touchy subject. But I do, like you, believe that the conversations need to happen. And I'm always willing to talk about the conversation. And a lot of times, you know, you may come across as being certain kind of ways for talking about it, you know, because me personally, you know, one thing I've learned since I've got to be an adult is that I started learning real black history. You know, we never had learned anything about real black history. And so when I went into the school this year for the first time and I saw all of these different people on the wall, not just, you know, Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King, but so many of them that I really didn't even know all who they were, you know, it brought me a sense of pride because I'm like, wow, you know, especially seeing all these other little black kids there, they're able to see more of their history. Yeah. And so I think it's important, you know, for both sides. I mean, but
to start having real conversations, man. And like you said, there are going to be times where people take things the wrong way and people are going to get offended, right? But that's okay, though. That's okay. As long as you can stay engaged and continue to have the conversation, you know, and go about that in a fashion where it doesn't escalate into anything, we can start to understand people, man, and understand each other. Yeah, so I think it's important to really start having real conversations about race. You know, I think it's a touchy topic, but where do we get by not saying anything?
Right. Yeah.
So
good stuff. Hey, so we veered off a little bit because one of the things I wanted to say is, you know, hearing you talk about your family, the family dynamics, the things with your brother, you running your, you know, those somewhat small things that really help mold you into the person that you are today. One of the things that I would say is that, you know, your success is not by accident. You know, it was intentional, right? And so one of the points that I want everybody to understand is that success is not by accident, but also failure is not either. And so when we're talking about those, you know, those repetitive things, you know, I read a book years ago, my mentor told me to read. It was called The Slight Edge. And it was those things that you do on a regular basis, you know, that those little minute things that end up being huge things over a big period of time. And so with the positive things that they were implanting in you, it's another kid out here that's being negative stuff reinforced into his mind. And so what I want our viewers to understand, because there's some young lady out there who had a baby at a young age, who was a kid raising a kid and haven't been taught this, but I want them to understand what's going on. Because here it is, you know, a successful dentist. Your brother is a head coach for what, Milwaukee?
Yes.
Your sister, a dental hygienist. You know what I mean? Those things didn't happen by accident. Those things happen because you had people in place to pour into you and continue those slight edge things.
Exactly, man. And the key, we haven't said the word, but a key portion of it is preparation, man. Preparing yourself for what the challenges in life are going to be or what you're facing, right? So, and that's something that all three of us have done, is make sure that you're prepared, because if you weren't prepared then and you failed, you weren't ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you weren't ready for that situation. Make sure you prepare. If you prepare and you fail, okay, pick yourself back up and start again or whatever. Yeah. But if you're not preparing And a lot of our youth aren't doing that, man.
Right.
I see the dreams. Where's the preparation though, man? Where's the day-to-day? Where's the grind? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can dream all you want, but if you're not going to wake up in the morning and go do anything about it, if you're not going to prepare, if you don't have a plan, you're not going to get anywhere, right? So one of the things that separates us from others is that preparation.
So, I mean, now what I see when I talk to the average kid, you know, he's looking up to a rapper. He's wanting to be a rapper, or some of them wanting to be an athlete, you know. And one of the reasons why, like I said, I wanted to highlight people like you on this station is because I want them to, you know, see that it's possible to do other things.
Yeah.
But speaking about, you know, the rappers in the hip hop community and things, I mean, I know it's a lot different from when we were growing up. But you know, where do you see the hip hop community? What role does the hip hop community play in our today's society, in our African American community?
I mean, I have to say that it can go both ways, man. So I look at some of these rappers, athletes in the same regard, and I see positives in them. Okay. We can talk about, I think our kids mainly see the ending, man. So they see the money that these people attain, what their lifestyles are like, and they automatically think, you know, I can do that. That's a quick way to success because somebody I never heard of now is making $1 million and just put a record out, right? If kids actually learned about and knew those people's work ethics as well, I think it could be a tremendous positive, man.
Right.
Because a lot of those people work harder than I do. You know what I mean? So to attain that type of success, I mean, there's rappers that spend hours in the studio to put out an album. Athletes that spend their days, you know, practicing for a game. You know what I mean? So in that regard, it could be a positive. Some of the music and things they put out, I think those go kind of both ways too. I think it's hurting a lot of our youth at this point because they don't understand that that's music, right? So these people are rapping about things that they did maybe in their lives, but they ain't rapping about them to tell you to go do them.
Yeah.
They're telling you what it was like for them growing up, that it was tough, that this is what they had to deal with in the circumstances. You know what I mean? So that's the way I view the music. And if kids view the music in that way, you know, maybe things would be different. But what I see is, you know, somebody talks about selling drugs or robbing someone, and our kids want to go out and do that, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that part of it isn't good. You know what I mean? So I think it can go in many ways, and I think it takes a couple things, man. It takes some of these artists to start saying something, you know what I mean, positive about, you know, like, I'm putting out this music, but, you know, by no means am I recommending you do things like that. And it takes our parents, man, like my parents, they let me listen to whatever I want to. Like I said, kind of, there was nothing we couldn't discuss, and I had freedom in my household. But no way were they going to condone me going out and doing those types of things. You know what I mean? So at some point, our parents need to step in too and be involved in the kids' lives in that regard. Yeah.
You know, I think you made some good points. I know when I used to own my own independent label, one of the things that I saw was the young people that I had on the label. They thought that talent was enough, you know. So we make the studio appointment. They not showing up. They're showing up late. If we got the concert set, they got to go do other things. You know what I mean? Just really thinking that they were so good that, you know, the hard work part wasn't. Really, they didn't realize that you had to put in that kind of hard work.
And I continue to see the same thing, man. The reason why these careers are so attractive is because they seem like things because you're already talented at that. because you have skills. You can put together a few lines and rhyme. Because you can dribble or shoot a basketball better than somebody at your age now. They think it's going to be easy. Like, I'm going to attain success and I'm going to be a rapper. I'm going to be a pro athlete. And they don't see how much work goes into that, right? So you got to be a professional, you know. You got to prepare still, as I talked about earlier, and do the little things and do the small things to attain success in those fields as well.
Yeah.
Another thing that I would say, man, like, so many kids have those dreams, and only a small percentage are going to make it as pro athletes, or you're going to make it and be like a rap superstar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a key thing to realize is that there's jobs and opportunities all along the spectrum, right? You know what I mean? Just getting back to my own personal life, that's where Val ended up, man. That's where I ended up. I wanted to be a pro basketball player. Val wanted to be a pro basketball player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I used that opportunity to attain some education. He did as well. And he ended up being a basketball coach. He's still doing what he loves. He's still around the game of basketball. He just didn't attain, you know, that highest level of success as far as, you know, being in the NBA. If you can't be a rapper, I mean, you could go to school and be a music producer still. You could go to school and be a music teacher. You know what I mean? You still have opportunities in a field that you love if you love music. You know what I mean? So I think it's important for kids to realize that too, that there's a spectrum. You know what I mean? You may not attain that ultimate success of being this famous superstar or anything like that, but you can still find success, you know, in those positions.
And I think another thing that you said is about the conversations, and I too, you know, listen to whatever I want, watch whatever I want growing up, but I really feel like if my mother was who she is today, she would have done things different. Ultimately, I feel like, just like you said, you know, a lot of the things that we're hearing and seeing is actually hurting the community, because all it's doing is reinforcing these negative stereotypes. I worked with out at a boys' home for 9 years, and every time a kid was about to fight, he was rapping his favorite
lyrics to his
lyrics.
favorite song.
So
right?
whenever he was having fun, he was rapping his favorite lyrics. When he's talking about going to smash a female, it always went back to rap. And I think, you know, music is a universal language. That's why we see so much of the culture in all fields, you know, white, black, Mexican, no matter what, you know, we see it. And as young kids, I believe that, you know, their minds are so pliable. So at least at a young age, I feel like a parent shouldn't be allowing their kids to listen to whatever they want to. And as they get older, you know what I mean, you're not gonna stop them anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think like for me, I will always stand on the side of, you know, I would recommend at least you don't, you know, use, you know, not this, you know, but like my little nephews and nieces right now, ain't no way I'm gonna let them be around while I'm listening to that, you know, stuff that's telling them to steal, kill, shoot. I mean, you know, because it's this reinforcing those things.
That negativity, yeah. I can get down with that. I mean, I think it takes a certain age, maybe in a certain mindset, before you can separate the fact, like I said, that a lot of those songs and a lot of those artists are talking about things that they went through in their lives, and they're not talking about literally going out and doing that anymore. You know what I mean? So it takes some maturity to understand that. So I can get down with your viewpoint as well. You know, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things that I find when it comes to our people, when I see some people, you know, you may be feeling like people may feel like they're bad parents or not, you know, don't really care. I think that a lot of people really do care, and I think a lot of people really do want the best thing for their children. But a lot of it is that they haven't been taught. They haven't seen it done. All some people know is what they've seen, and so. I always end with a question, and this is going to be a two-part question. What would you say to that parent? What kind of advice would you give to that parent from actually a son to mother father standpoint, you know, we've talked a lot about what your parents have done, and also what would you say to a young kid who's at a crossroad and not sure on what he want, you know, what would you say to them? What kind of advice would you give them?
To parents, man, quite simple. You're not gonna know everything. My parents didn't know everything. Try to give your kid any and every opportunity you can, right? Whether that's playing sports or extracurricular activities, getting them, you know, outdoors to do things, having them, like I said, meet people from different walks of life that are different from themselves, because all of those things are going to help those kids grow, right? So I think the most important thing you can do, in addition to just being an all-around good parent, is have them have some experiences, right? I mean, that's going to be tough at times, you know. We ain't growing up in the best of socioeconomic circumstances, right? We may not have the most money, but at times where you can, try to make sure that they have, you know, some experiences in life.
Man,
yeah, definitely.
Before you go to the other question, I think that was a great answer, man. You know, the other day I had this revelation because I've seen kids, you know, through the home that I was talking about, you know, leave, and we've given them so many different experiences. Now, when I was working there, I didn't realize what was happening. You know, some of them I'm in contact with now and they're doing great because they got outside of that little Detroit radius and they got to see, you know, the ropes course. You know, I didn't never think, you know, going rock climbing and stuff like that would be detrimental to people. You know, planting flowers over there by the college, and they get to see other people in college and stuff. And this whole time, the world is changing because they're seeing things that they never seen before. Exactly. And so I think that is definitely so important. And I had some kids that went back to their old environment and
it's all different, brother.
and yeah, they have to deal with their own environment, and some even, you know, end up dying. You know, it's a very sad situation, but we have to do everything that we can to put them in those situations that you're talking about, because those situations help define you, because everything that you experience has helped mold you and help you see things in a different light. And I myself had that those kind of experiences growing up. You know, this like you know, being connected with other families and stuff like that. You know, so
So they're game changers, man. Because once you start to establish a worldview and you start to see things are bigger than where you grew up, bigger than the Albion community, right? Life changes for you, right? Because you come back here and you can see the differences, and that's where kids start wanting to go out, wanting to do more, and wanting to be more. And these experiences also give them different avenues. A kid may not necessarily know what they want to do at a young age, right? And they may have an experience going to a museum or something like that and say, man, maybe I want to do something like this. You know what I mean? So as much as you can, allow them to have experiences, okay? Whether those are getting out and doing things or meeting different types of people from different walks of life, experience outside of the community for sure.
You know, and I've been planning on doing this, but I'm gonna take my daughter to try to take her to the news, you know, where they do the news to see the meteorologists, because she's interested in science, you know what I mean? And this, I mean, this makes me smile, this feeling, what we saying, because you never know what happened.
What happened. And the thing that you'll find, like I said, we kind of are getting to a point where we're closed off in our community. The thing that you'll find, and when you do these things, that there are people there that will help your child along, for real. I mean, I enjoy when people bring their kids to me, you know, to say, oh, I'm going to take you to the dentist today, to show them what they do. I get enjoyment out of that. And other people do too, to be able to show your career field off. And that may be something, the avenue that the child ends up choosing, man. So I think that's huge for parents, the experiences, man.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so the next question. The kids now, what kind of advice would you give to that kid?
So we start in all different types of places, man. We don't get to choose where we come from, who our parents are, anything like that. And a lot of times along the way, you know, you're going to run into hardships and run into things. My advice would be, one, always believe in yourself, man. Even when people around you aren't believing in you, continue to believe in yourself and believe in your dream, whatever your goal is. And then the second thing is, what I see happen is, in those situations when you're down in the dumps, a lot of people stop completely, right? It's like, man, this is so hard at this point that I'm just not gonna do nothing, right? Continue to do the small things and continue to every day grind, right? Like I was telling you, man, I've never met a person who read books that didn't get something from those books and get smarter. I've never met someone who worked out and lifted weights every day that didn't get stronger. I never met someone who started running who, you know, couldn't run a mile after a little bit. You know what I mean? What I'm trying to say is, if you continue to do those small things along the way towards your dream, man, eventually you're going to get closer and closer to attaining success, even if you're down in the dumps right now, right? So believe in yourself and just continue to work, even when the situation seems, you know, dire. You got to continue to grind, definitely.
Man,
so,
look, man, it's been real. I definitely just greatly appreciative for you coming by, man. And it's been a good conversation. You know, this is what the Come Up is about, man. I really just want to focus on lifting up our community, man. And I just appreciate your participation in that today.
No problem, man. I thank you for having me over. It's been fun chatting with you for sure, man. And I'm hoping that, you know, some people listen to this and get something out of it for sure, man.
It definitely will, man. Thank you for taking the time out to watch this video. We're asking for your support. Give us some input. Tell us how you feel. And remember, like and comment and share this video. God bless.